Designing for film is different. You can apply the same principles, but the end result is really different. The demands are different. Designing for film, and I found this out in the process of actually doing it and comparing it to what I'd done before. If you have the problem of designing a car, for instance, or a handheld prop, or even a set, backdrop, for film, you have to first find out what the audience probably expects to look at for that kind of thing, because everybody runs around with a kind of, again, their own private mental visual library. If you don't talk to that and come up with something that looks rational for the story, they don't know where they are, it interrupts the story, and you really haven't done your job, and you probably have materially helped destroy the continuity of the story. So designing for film with an industrial design awareness background, I think is extremely cross-complementary, because you're constructing fantasy, you're using very logical rules in a completely hypothetical setting. But the two, oddly enough, work together very, very well. And that discipline makes the job in both worlds much better. I received a call from Steve Lisberger, who was the director of Tron, and met him for lunch on the Disney lot to discuss this film to be called Tron. I first started doing all the vehicles for the film, again doing the hardware, and found out they were all going to be generated on the computer. So we had a vehicle set which consisted of the tank, the light cycles, which were the feature vehicles because they were used in the high-speed race chase sequences, Sark's aircraft carrier, and a startup on the Solar Sailor, which was eventually done by Mobius. The idea was that these characters, being programs, could then call up other programs or accessories to their roles at will. So the light cycle started with a kind of a magic energizing wand which they would hold in their hands, and the whole vehicle would then flash into existence from the code built into that wand. So the important thing was, how do you res up or bring into existence a complicated geometric object like a light cycle? And I started off with the front wheel, which became a sphere, and then the body of the light cycle extruded back in very, very rapid frame animation from that first flash sphere, and the rider ended up astride and then in an instant inside the shape of the light cycle. And it all happened in about 5 or 6 frames. It was very fast. 2010, the sequel to 2001, the first of the series by Arthur C. Clarke. 2010 started at MGM. I got a call, met Peter Hyams on the MGM lot in his office, and started the process of designing the Leonov, again, one of the hardware parts of the film. And we worked on the idea for the craft based on the script, which Hyams and Clarke worked on together via satellite with Clarke's home in Sri Lanka. And we settled down the look of the Leonov pretty much in about a week's working time. And then I went into details and to the model shop over at Voss Film, and I worked with the model builders as the craft became a movie model for the film production. Aliens was the sequel of Alien, the first film directed by Ridley Scott, and James Cameron directed Aliens, the sequel. The craft that was featured in Aliens, similar to the Nostromo in Alien, was the Sulaco. And we needed a combination of heavy lift cruiser, troop ship, freighter, a very gigantic, ponderous vehicle that would move past the camera and establish the setting for all the interior shots. My first assignment for Blade Runner was designing the vehicles. Ridley had seen the illustration in Sentinel. I think it's a dark, stormy, sort of a wet expressway of the future. And as time went on, it became the look of the film, sort of a noir, desperate, dysfunctional, high-tech world. So I designed the vehicles, the Spinner, the taxi, Deckard's sedan, the Sebastian van, which we called the Armadillo because it had that curious serrated look on the back end of it. And when I presented these designs to Ridley and to Lawrence Paul, the production designer, I had backgrounds behind them. They were in color, in gouache, not to screen proportion, just a presentation sketch. And Ridley liked the backgrounds that I was putting in behind the vehicles because I don't like to do just an object on a white piece of paper. So I then got involved in the street set process with Larry Paul on the back lot of Warner Brothers in Burbank, dressing the what they call the old New York street to make it literally unrecognizable with stuff just layered over the facades, and then eventually into the interior sets and some of the handheld props and fixtures.